Yoni, head of True Sports Physical Therapy. Yoni is my guy for everything injury related. And unfortunately, the big topic right now is around Lamar Jackson. Brian Wacker of the Baltimore Sun just put this out, Yoni, that Lamar is going to miss up to 2 to 3 weeks, likely to miss Sunday, hamstring injury. Not what anyone wants to hear. And I know you're as honest as it is with information. So, kind of walk me through what this entails for all Baltimore Ravens fans when it comes to the two-time MVP.
Yeah, I mean, for the next 2 to 3 weeks, it doesn't bode well for their chances. Clearly, if you're talking about the physiology of it, here's what's important to know about the hamstring. It is the most commonly re-injured muscle in the human body. So when you hear that someone goes down with a hamstring, you need to be very particular with how you're rehabbing them and making sure they are 1,000,000% before they get back on the field. Because if they're still feeling anything, more importantly, if they are testing like there's still some weakness there, there's a very high likelihood that you could re-injure it. Then we're 5, 6, 7 weeks into the season. That's the last thing Baltimore wants to see. So I'm hoping that the Ravens take their sweet time getting Lamar back on the field from this hamstring injury.
So let's walk through, because a lot of people initially, first off, ludicrous when some people had the theory that, oh, Lamar quit on his team. That's ridiculous, first off, especially as competitive as he is. But when it comes to hamstrings, and you and I know the intricacies that happen to it, and you can say the feeling of a grab or a pull, and it can mean different variations. We're going to get into some other guys that are dealing with that on the Ravens as well. But can you just maybe explain a little bit more to people about that grab and pull sensation and why you have to be so careful?
Yeah, absolutely. It kind of dovetails into what I was talking about previously. So when the athlete feels a pull, it doesn't necessarily tell you how severe the given injury is. The good news is Ravens get Lamar straight into an MRI. Now they're able to see, hey, is this a grade 1? Then we're looking at 1 to 3 weeks out. Is it a grade 2? We're looking at 4 to 6 weeks. Grade 3 is a full rupture. It's going to take way longer than that. So it's not really predicated on what the athlete feels on the field, but rather what does the MRI tell us? That's where we can get our best prediction as to when the athlete's going to come back. Now, what's really, really key here is that he goes through the proper testing and protocols to make sure that that tissue is all the way healed and that the rehab really mimics what he needs to do on the field. So you're talking about some very high loads going through that hamstring. You're talking about a ramp up of sprints, and you know that Lamar is so talented with his feet. So much of his game is outside the pocket. So it's going to be a lot of sprint work to make sure that he's back ready. And then once he passes that testing, they're looking at 2 to 3 weeks. It's really a ballpark. It could be 4, it could be 2, just to make sure that he checks those boxes to get back on the field.
And let's just continue on with this then real quickly. For those that are saying, well, you could play through it, just a hamstring, you just can't be as mobile. How likely is it then? If you're at a point right now where you're teetering on a grade 1 to 2, how much damage can you do by trying to push through it with especially what you just explained on how explosive he is as an athlete?
Oh, it could be catastrophic. If you rush this thing, or if you're going to question Lamar's toughness and say you got to get back out there and fight through it, you're really risking the rest of the season with a grade 3 or the chance of a massive rupture. We see this all the time with calves, right? When guys fight through calves and it ends up being something so much worse, like an Achilles. The very same thing can happen with a hamstring, where that tendon, where it attaches up into the pelvis, can actually avulse or rip off. That is more likely to happen after a hamstring tear or strain. And so you got to make sure that you really take your time and do it intelligently as you're getting that athlete back. By the way, it's important to note that the most force that goes through a hamstring, including all the things that you can do in the weight room, the very most force that goes through a hamstring is actually with sprinting. Okay, so the amount of force that's going through the hamstring during a game day is far and away greater than what's going to happen in a weight room. And so you got to prepare the athlete. It takes a lot of time to get them back to that high level that they need on Sundays.
And that's the ultimate goal. And I appreciate you saying all this, right? Because one, you always explain it, even when I don't want to hear all the answers.
You never want to hear these answers.
But it is important to know what every detail needs to be, and also it's worrisome to Ravens fans because of what the record is right now, that 1-3. But this is bigger than just what 4 games have been for the 2025 season. You're looking at what the player could be for the rest of the year and for his career moving forward. Now, you did mention calf, and then we also we want to touch on another hamstring in a second, because the Ravens have a bunch of injuries here, Yoni, so we might as well do that. But before we do, for anyone that doesn't know about True Sports Physical Therapy, could you just explain why I trust you so much? Because I know all the work that you do is incredible.
Yeah, there's not another physical therapy company or provider in the Maryland area that does it like True Sports does it. We provide one-on-one care every single session. You are one-on-one with your doctor of physical therapy for 45 minutes, and this ain't your grandma's physical therapy. You're in a high-level performance atmosphere where you're working side by side with professional athletes, with collegiate athletes, and every single session is geared to helping you attain your goals at True Sports.
And why I trust you so much is we have these conversations also all the time about everything. And from a guy that played professional baseball, and you will never admit it, but you've dealt with everyone from the amateur to the professional ranks. I trust you with all that, so I appreciate it and everything you're doing over there. Check out True Sports Physical Therapy. You mentioned calf now.
Yeah.
And we might as well just rip the Band-Aid off with the rest of these, because the Ravens, it felt like, besides getting smacked by the Chiefs, they lost a lot of key guys. One that's dealing with the calf issue is Marlon Humphrey. And you mentioned just a little bit ago about the ramifications for rushing a calf injury. We've seen it a lot in the NBA. We've seen it in the NFL. But for Marlon Humphrey now, it's being reported he's going to miss some time. Um, when you're looking at that, and again, we don't know all the information, but give me a little bit of the baseline of what you think at minimum here Marlon's going to have to deal with before he's going to be able to join the Ravens.
Yeah, so it's a very similar concept. I always say like physical therapy and rehab is really simple. Like if it's tight, we stretch it, and if it's loose, we strengthen it. Now, with the strengthening side, that just takes a given amount of time and a given set amount of time. And so if the tissue is damaged, number one, we got to do everything we can do to allow that tissue to heal. Then once it's healed, now you have to start loading it and getting it stronger. And so the muscle's going to get stronger before it gets larger. And so we're looking before the muscle can even grow. It's 6 weeks, and you're going to see strength gains along that timeline before 6 weeks. So this isn't really a matter of who's doing their job on the rehab side. Is the player working hard enough? Some of it just simply takes time for that tissue to heal. And then it's about intelligently loading the tissue, but not too much because you don't want to re-pull it, right? So it's constantly measuring and remeasuring and testing to make sure that the athlete's ready to return. As it pertains specifically to the calf, there are a million ways to strengthen the calf. You got to understand the anatomy of the calf muscle. It's made up of 2 different muscles. One of those muscles crosses the back of the knee. One of them doesn't. So you got to do exercises with the knee bent to hit one of the muscles called your soleus, with the knee straight to hit your gastroc, which is like your larger outside calf muscle. You got to give that tissue time to heal and then get stronger. So between a grade 1 or 2, you're looking at, again, between 3 and 6 weeks.
And again, this is something that playing through it is not necessarily the best thing. We're looking at big picture here. And I know that there's urgency because, look, Roquan Smith, we hadn't talked about, but same thing, hamstring situation. Some reports are out. It could be grade 2, missing time, right?
Yeah.
And so we know how that works out. And that's the reality of it. You got to try to strengthen it, and you got to be smart, even though there's a sense of urgency to try to want to win ball games. One last thing to wrap this all up, because it just happened here. And by the way, the Ravens are also, I want to mention, no Pat Ricard, Kyle Van Noy, Nate Wiggins with the elbow situation, right? There's so many question marks, and it's been brutal. Probably the one that
Madubuike.
And that's what I wanted to end with this,
Yeah.
actually, Yoni, is Nnamdi Madubuike. That is the one we know for sure the timeline he's done for the year. And it's never good when you hear a head coach, and you always want to have an advantage. But now knowing he's still out and you're not getting an answer on how serious this injury is, Yoni, when you're talking about the neck, it's serious. And we've seen careers come to an end. I hope that's not the case, but just your initial inkling when you hear this news, what do you think it could be the outcome here for the stud defensive lineman here for the Baltimore Ravens?
I mean, the outcome, worst case scenario, is what Harb's outlined, which could be career threatening. It's a guess because obviously I'm not looking at his MRI imaging, but
Sure.
there is a presentation where the spinal canal will narrow. And I think we saw this with Zach Orr, the defensive coordinator. And so when you're playing defensive tackle, you're playing linebacker, and there's so many head-on collisions, if you have a narrower spinal column, you are more likely to injure the spinal cord or some of the nerves that exit the spinal cord. And that's when you start talking about career threatening, because no one wants to see that happen. Usually, when you talk about career ending and you talk about necks, it involves that narrowing of the spinal column. That's what I'm thinking. Again, there's no way to know. It could be a disc, but usually when they start talking about discs, they're not talking about career ending like Harbs seem to mention.
Mm-hmm. Oh, when it rains, it pours, right?
Yeah. I will
It pours
say,
on.
if anyone has a neck that can make a recovery, it's a neck that looks like Nnamdi's.
He is a beast,
He's a
man.
beast.
He's a beast. Physical specimen. You hope the best, but at the end of the day, for all these players, you got to do what's best for their health, and that's the end of the game. You want to win games, but there is it's everything in your health is bigger than the game of football here. So hope the best for Madubuike. Hope these Ravens can get back on track. And Yoni, I hope to see you soon. I hope that it's not because we got to keep talking about injuries, but it's the nature of the beast. I appreciate your time, and for anyone else out there, we're going to put out the information. So if you want to find out more about True Sports Physical Therapy, obviously message me. But where can they find you, Yoni, on top of it?
Dude, we're everywhere. So look us up, truesportsphysicaltherapy.com. We got 11 locations throughout Maryland. We got 2 in PA. We got 1 in Delaware. So we're everywhere, and we're growing with the absolute best clinicians in the area. So look us up.
I appreciate you, Yoni, and everyone. If you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. We're live every Monday, Thursday, and Sunday right here on YouTube, X, and Facebook.